right, next up we have our Ask Me Anything series, and for that we have Bobbie Johnson, who's a senior editor at Medium here. Before he was at Medium, he's also the founding editor at Matter, which is a flagship publication at medium.com. Matter's won a number of awards, partnered with major news organizations, covered a lot of stories. Bobbie's a very funny and smart guy. I've been on a panel with him before, so I hope you have a lot of good questions for him. Thanks.
Hello. Can I take this out of here? Yeah. So this is an AMA. Don't get too personal. But I kind of figured whenever I come to these things, as you know, on the other side of the podium, it's always kind of a bit boring, right? Because people never really answer the questions you want to ask. They always pitch you the thing they want to pitch you. So I thought it was much more interesting just to take questions from everybody and sort of see where it goes. But a bit of context first. So, good introduction. That kind of explains the basics of what I do now. I'm a senior editor at Medium and the founding editor of Matter, which is a publication inside Medium, which I am not going to say. Well, I'll say it once. I'm not saying it again, which is Platisher. Medium is both a platform and a publisher. Before that, I was, most of my career was 10 years at The Guardian in London and then in San Francisco. And then I took a buyout. Seems to be the thing these days that you do that. But I was writing and reporting and editing on media and tech, and spent 5 years as their main technology reporter. So I've kind of seen things from many different perspectives, and I'm now trying to work out what the fuck goes on next. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm not even going to carry on talking. I just want to take questions, and let's see what sort of conversation we can have. There's one over there. Yeah, if you just wait for the microphone, that will help, I think.
So I have two questions. One is about original content. A lot of these websites I see, they mostly aggregate content, and they're really good at giving you the top stories of the day and linking you to other sites. But in terms of original reporting, specifically in the field, it seems like that's still kind of a challenge. So I was wondering what you had about that from your reporting background. And also branded content. Obviously, everyone from New York Times on down is doing it. It seems to be a pretty gray area that has a lot of pitfalls, and I'm not sure how you see that trend going, and comment.
Well, yeah. So I'll take those two questions. Number one, I think the value of original work is actually higher than it's ever been. There are also, however, many people who try desperately to devalue that original work. That can go both ways. Like, getting your story spread around is huge, right? You can kind of own scoops in ways that you couldn't have done before. But also, if you share a story that nobody shared before, if you're the people who can invest time and money and energy in original reporting, then I think it actually, it's great. And it actually plays into the other question you had about, the world of brand advertising and native advertising, which is that ultimately, like, advertisers want to go, the best advertisers want to go where there's some kind of cachet to the brand they're sort of aligning themselves with. So you do good work, and it's much easier to have conversations with good advertisers. That's one way of thinking about it. I mean, in terms of the sort of native and brand advertising world, I think one reason Medium was really interesting to me is that it's a network. We're effectively a publishing tool that anybody can do anything on, and that can be Joe Schmo, or that can be me as a kind of professional editor and reporter, I can go on there and try and do stuff. And what was pretty apparent to me was that the easiest place to blur the lines is when you're reporting on something specifically because an advertiser wants you to do. And at The Guardian, I used to produce maybe once or twice, kind of every 3 months, do a sponsored supplement or something that would, Microsoft or Intel would sponsor it, and I'd sort of corral a bunch of writers, and that was completely, it was pretending to be a magazine pullout or something, and it was the same thing back then. What we have now, and what's interesting to me in the work I'm doing now, is that actually we're trying to build a space that if brands want to advertise on it, it's kind of more obvious. They have to do the work. They have to set up, people talk about content marketing. Feel free to go and market your content, but I'm not going to pretend that it comes from me. So Medium, the kind of Medium's platform allows people to build publications or to put bits of content into the system. If that's paid for by somebody, we kind of, if we have a collection that's sponsored by BMW, it says on each page, sponsored by BMW, but that exists as an entirely separate thing. It kind of depends on how you read Medium, but we look at Medium. Medium is Blogger, plus Twitter. It's kind of the tools. I wonder why that is. It's the tools to produce something plus the network that allows you to distribute it. And that comes out of Ev having built Blogger and then built Twitter and then going, holy shit, can't we do both these things at the same time? But yeah, I think we're still, really, really early on in all of this, even though the news industry's been doing it for years and years and years. It just likes to pretend now that I think we've crossed that point where, like a year ago, everyone was like, "Oh, fuck native advertising! It's so disgusting." And now the New York Times, has its big creative department. They're like, "Oh, it's the greatest thing ever." It's neither of those things, right? There are good examples and bad examples, and there will be things people want to read, things people don't. It will shake out, and we'll get somewhere. We're kind of in the formative stages, but I think there are lots of big questions still to be answered, and trying to build huge businesses around it. BuzzFeed and Vice, effectively, all their valuations and all the money going into them is coming out of native, and I kind of think the leaves are going to be pulled away on that over time, right? Because right now it's valuable, but in 5 years' time, there'll be something else where the money is. And question here.
No problem,
You can also harass me or throw things at me if I'm annoying you.
I'm still a bit confused about the identity of Medium, and I think a lot of people are like, is it a platform or is it a place for original content? Also because everybody can contribute to it, but there are also paid authors writing for it. And I wonder if you could comment a bit, like what direction is it going? What is the identity of Medium in the end?
Yeah. Okay. So the company's a couple of years old. The service is kind of probably just about 2 years old. It's quite something, but I've got a 3-year-old. 2 years isn't very long at all. So over the past couple of years, we've spent a lot of time experimenting, trying new things, keep moving, keep rolling, try and see where the interesting things are. Ultimately, so Medium is, the easiest way to think of it, I think, is two businesses, right? One is a platform. One is the blogger. One is the, hey, you can create whatever you want to create. And that could be something you've already produced somewhere else, and you want to repost it on Medium, or that can be something you want to produce originally. That can be your personal blog. That can be your, 10 tips that I want to share with my colleagues, whatever. Doesn't really matter. It's YouTube, right? Anyone can upload. There's also, we spend time and money creating things specifically for Medium because we think that it's also a tool that in the future we hope publishers and brands could use to, instead of, I'll take a step back. So I set up Matter as a magazine, as a kind of online magazine, whatever, I don't know what you call these things, a publication. The hardest thing was getting it all set up. The technology's easier than it's ever been. You know, the systems are cheaper than they've ever been, but it's still a pain in the arse, right? So when, and we spent, you know, we raised a bunch of money on Kickstarter, but we spent a ton of it kind of reinventing the wheel, right? You know, it doesn't matter whether you use WordPress or whatever, there's kind of customization and stuff you want to do to effectively build your own little corner of the universe that you do the same thing as everyone else in, right? You publish stuff. So there's Medium is a platform that allows anybody to kind of to publish and build things. We think there's also an opportunity there for publishers, particularly indie publishers, instead of spending, you know, those dollars on reinventing the wheel, you know, here's a system that not only can we provide tools for you that allow you to publish great stuff, make it look nice, but we also have a distribution network. So, you know, you can follow writers, you can follow publications, you can kind of, you can be part of the network. So the idea is ultimately, you know, you drop a piece of, I'm not going to say the C word, content into the top, and it finds everybody who cares about it at the other end. You know, that's where it goes. What we're doing in terms of, you know, what we're doing in terms of paying people is effectively we run publications inside Medium that we operate as in like not entirely independent businesses, but they operate, you know, under their own steam. You know, I have a team of 7. We try and produce amazing journalism. We have a publication that does stuff on music. We have a publication that does stuff on technology with Stephen Levy as the editor. You know, and the idea there is we are paying for things because we want to know how publications can use Medium and how they can break it and what the fuck it needs to do in order to really work for independent creators. So, and the analogy with YouTube is, you know, is a real one, because YouTube is a big platform that anyone can put stuff on. And, you know, you'll see viral videos, hey, woo, pasta, great. That's, you know, that's some guy uploading a video. But you also get the movie studios putting videos on there. You get people creating like big stuff. But you also get Google essentially funding a whole bunch of YouTube creators to make the platform more interesting and entertaining and sticky and keep people coming in. So, so that's kind of, it's not really an answer, but hopefully that explains a little bit more. I've got 8 minutes left. Be fast. Mr.
Leverage, you know, editorial resources and technology and things like that to kind of make the most of it.
Yeah, so I mean, I've kind of been obsessed with phones as a consumption device for a very long time. You know, as a reporter, this was one of my main beats was, you know, the explosion of cell phones. And, you know, being British, we were ahead of you guys for a little while, at least. Like, you know, 10, 15 years ago, mobile was everywhere already, you know, or it was really obvious that it wasn't, was going to take over everything. So I've been thinking about mobile pretty much as long as I've been alive in any professional sense, I suppose. And I still don't think anyone really knows what the answer is, right? Which is kind of I wish somebody would. I wish somebody would tell me. I think, you know, the things, I think we're still in a world where we're trying to create things, we're trying to replicate what we do elsewhere. I think when Matt was speaking and he said, not much has changed in the news business. And I was kind of like, well, screw you, lots has changed, you know. But also you're entirely correct, because we are still really porting, you know, we're still doing lumps of text, big lumps of text. You know, sometimes we publish 5 to 10, I think we published a 15,000 word article a couple of weeks ago, you know. Is this right for now? Or are you interjecting? Or is this for in a minute? Okay, we'll carry on, but come to you next. You were just so excited. I thought you were... So mobile, I think the problem with mobile is creation, right? You look at the things that I use on my phone all the time. Instagram is amazing, right? It's just the perfect form for what it does. I think Circa's really interesting, but I still think we're several steps away from what consumption means on mobile for information, and that's ultimately, we're all in the business of transmitting information. But I think it looks a lot more like Instagram than it looks like anything else, right? But that involves thinking about how you spend your resources, right? But right now, it's still a chicken and an egg, because if you can't consume it in a great format, then you can't create it for a great format. I'll tell you what we do a lot of, which is, Matter started out as a pretty heavily long-form publisher. We sort of thought there's a space for some big stories, and people value big stories. But the last 3 months, I've been working really hard on what does that small thing look like? What does that instant thing look like? What does that snapshot look like? And, it's a lot more visual. It's a lot more engaging and direct, but it isn't like an unedited stream of crap. I love watching videos from things that are happening. The idea of reporting bearing witness to the events of the world, I think that's really important. But it also requires a filter. I choose who I follow on Instagram because I want to see their pictures. I think the news is different. The news forces its way into your life. It's sort of, I was sitting at the back here, trying to assign something after Eric Garner. It's like, apparently being a black man in New York, in America, means you're kind of a target that any policeman can fucking pull over and strangle and collapse on the floor and kill, and you can do fuck all about it. So a reporter goes out tonight to cover the protests and everything, but what does that look like? It certainly looks different as time goes on, but it's still a work in progress, But I think I want to be there, but I also don't want to just be watching a live stream. I don't want to be 24-hour news either. I want to be something else. Again, not really an answer, but
And we also have a mic up in the loft, so maybe next question we can see if anybody up
I can't really see, so if you're up there, I can see one hand up there, yeah. So just
We'll take
be
that one
vigorous. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kate, 99 Antennas. I guess our question is, how is your business model different than traditional publications? Is it working? And do you have any plans to share revenue with creators, which I think is most important to all of us here?
Well, it helps that we're owned by a billionaire, I think. Having said that, we're a functioning business that, like many other businesses, is raising investment to try and to buy, to build a business. But it, certainly, the fact that Ev founded Twitter means that those conversations with investors are a lot easier, right? But it also means that things can be really shit. Like, I've been watching with great excitement and glee the collapse of First Look, because throwing money at something and hiring people is not the answer. You have to think about it, and you have to hire the right people and think really hard about where things go. So Medium's business right now, I think, I'm not sure what I can share publicly, but I think the publishing side of the business, all of the individual publications, we're doing fine. It's partly about deals we make that kind of cross-subsidize, just like any publisher, you make a deal that people spend money on something over here, and you can fund, we can fund somebody going to Nigeria and reporting about Boko Haram there. That's just the way it works, and that's kind of doing fine. I think we're on target to break even on most of that pretty soon. The platform itself, platforms are huge opportunities. I wrote a thing about Uber the other week. I suggest you read it. It's the best thing on Uber you'll ever read. But there was a section in there which sort of explains the way I think about startups and the way startups actually work, which is that they don't work until they work. And hitting big scale is a really important part of making them work. Once you make something big enough, there are many opportunities to make money from it. Making it big enough is part of the problem. This is really counting down. It's scaring me. So I'm gonna yes, totally share money with content creators. Why wouldn't you? They're the lifeblood of any creative business. Like, it's not even about sharing it. It's about, I want to give you all the money and have a little bit of it, to keep the service running. But I'm not here, That's how you make 1,000 flowers bloom, right? Is you give the tools to the people to go and do the stuff that they're really good at. Why wouldn't you do that? And money is a big part of that. I love things like Patreon, which allow you to sort of directly fund things. I love Kickstarter. We raised Matter raised $140,000 on Kickstarter. It was the biggest publishing project ever on Kickstarter, which was terrifying. But people cared, and it allowed us to do really good work. And then we're trying to build from that. So yeah, totally. If in some point in the future that people aren't making money, but Medium is making money, we've done it wrong, right? And the one at the back, and then depends how long I ramble, but.
Time for one more. Last question.
Okay.
You just mentioned that you're, creating a platform. In that vein, are you going to let brands take their content and pull it in under their own domain? So, technically speaking, domain mapping.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that comes up a lot, right? Is, hey, I would totally put something on Medium if it could still say it was at, blah blah.com. So yeah, I mean, that's been something people have knocked on the door for a long time about. So it's something we're taking really seriously. I think there's definitely a tension between what we are as a brand that kind of holds other brands inside it, if that makes sense. There's an M on every page. That's the Medium M. What does that mean if you're also trying to publish inside that bucket? I think that's a big question we've got to solve. But I think the crucial thing is what makes Medium work. It's a great place to produce, but really the point of it is the network. It's about that machine that can get your stories to people. So, there's an ongoing tension of making that machine work as well as it can versus allowing people to produce their own stuff, kind of independently of the network. So, yeah, we want to come to the right solution on that. I think one of the things we try very hard is we try and be fast and productive. We also try not to jump in too quickly on anything to come up with a solution that doesn't really work. We want to do it right if we can. And I'm out of time. Hope that was useful. I have no idea standing up here, but thank you.